Africa, the amiable continent, and our international audience. At this point, I would like to pass the microphone to the next speaker.
Thank you very much. Well done for that. Good morning, Nigeria and the world. My name is Oluwagbemisola Hanaogumefu. And I'm here again, like I promised in my last speech, that I will be back to complete the series that I started, which was about parental involvement when too little becomes too much. Parental involvement when too little becomes too much. I remember talking about what parental involvement is, the support parents give to their children to help them become better individuals, better in their academics, better all round. And I also remember talking about the fact that the menace of over-involvement is not just a problem that we see in Nigeria today. It's something that happens all around the world. So I am not just talking to Nigerians. I'm also talking to the international community. You know that in the UK, they've had issues around parents now becoming helicopter parents, always hovering around their children, where involvement has now become interference. Same in the US. Parents now challenge every instruction. Parents now stand up to fight for their children in aspects that are not even needed. In South Korea, we see how parents put extreme pressure on their children because of the high level of education and then segregation that comes in through the kind of education they have. You hear, and that's because even the community puts that pressure on them. You hear, if you did not go to, let's say, Seoul National University, and then you went to a nameless school or something like that, when you want to get some kind of jobs, you might not get it. And then some of these universities will not admit you to become a student if you don't meet a particular target in your academics. And because of this, you see parents extremely pushing their children to the edge just so they can meet up, just so they want them to be able to attend a particular university, a particular school, because by so doing, that's how the child would have the future they have envisioned for that child. Some even go as far as buying results or paying their way through school just so they can come attend that school and also come out in flying colors, because they believe that that's the way that they set up their futures for them. So it's not just in Nigeria. I remember that some time ago, I also heard a principal in one of India's school talking about this same issue of parents encroaching into the personal spaces of teachers. When I talk about personal spaces, I'm not talking about their personal lives. I'm talking about their professional lives. Encroaching into their spaces, trying to get into what they do. Why are you doing this? instead of doing why don't you do this and that, no, you're not supposed to do it this way, this is how you're supposed to do it. And then any little thing you do, any little thing you say, the next thing you're facing a panel, the next thing you have to defend yourself, you have to think about what you want to do before you even do it. You have to think of how to defend yourself in case the matter escalates, even before it is escalated. And teachers are working on eggshells around parents, around systems that have been built by parental, excessive involvement, and schools support in, or some school support in this area. To the extent that even in the UK, they had to put in place some what we know as the parent liaison officers. So when I say parental involvement, when too little becomes too much, like I said also, I mentioned the fact that there was a time, there was an era when parental involvement was at an all-time low. Parents were not really involved in the education of their children because they believe that once I've sent you to school, your teachers will do the rest. And because we see, it still happens anyway, some parents up to now are still not involved. What happens when there is too little involvement? It results in neglect. It results in neglect. And like I said in one of my speeches when I talked about safeguarding and child protection, I remember telling us that neglect is not just something that you find in impoverished families. No. It's not just what you find in struggling families. No. Neglect is something that can be found also in affluent homes. And when the support is too little, we see children struggling academically because they don't get the kind of support they need. There are times when, yes, a child might understand what has been done in school, but the child just needs to probably there's a little confusion and just needs to be set right, but there's nobody to, oh, no, it's not like that, it's like this. And then the child can go on to do what they need to do. But when that is not in place, you notice that the child begins to struggle academically. Sometimes when, I also remember talking about one of my students, not directly my student anyways, that was doing poorly in school simply because he skips breakfast. He does not take breakfast at home. Yes, he's giving food to bring to school, but he's not giving breakfast at home. And because of that, he's unable to concentrate in class. He does not have the energy to carry out any mental work until after break when he has eaten. That could also be as a result of neglect. Because thank God that it was discovered that the absence of breakfast is affecting this child's academics. If it had not been discovered in school, this child would have continued failing. And it would have been assumed that, oh, he's just a poor child, or he does not have the capability to do what is needed or something. And there's a term we refer to that in Yoruba. We say this child is olodo, something like that, a low achieving child. But this child is not a low achieving child. Only one very important component is missing: breakfast. And that was it. So this can stem from neglect. Children who suffer neglect too, or who have too little parental involvement in their studies or in their life, suffer from lack of emotional confidence. They lack emotional confidence. I also talked about some children in school. You see them engage in low-level disruptions, high-level disruptions, not because they are stubborn children, no. It's just their way of crying for help. Nobody sees them. Mom is away. Dad is always away. All I have to do is be alone all day, or be with my nanny all day and all that. I need somebody to speak to. I don't have anyone to speak to. There are times you just need someone to just talk to, just to rant, just like the previous speakers said. You just need to, you might not really need them to tell you anything. You just need them to listen to you. But when they come home, they come back to an empty home, to an empty house. Some children, possibly because their siblings are grown, maybe they were giving birth to later on in life after their parents had stopped having children or something like that, and then there is a lot of gaps between them and their older siblings, and those ones have gone to school and something like that, or they've moved on with life, and they have to be at home alone. You see those kind of children, when they come to school, they play. They play like there's no tomorrow. Because they know that once I go back home, I am not going to have this opportunity to play anymore. I don't have anybody at home to play with. So they don't care even if they are not doing what they need to do in school. They will play. That's for even those ones that can even come out to speak with people or to socially connect or emotionally even understand themselves. And those ones are even rare extremes, rare cases. Most of these children suffer from emotional confidence lack. They don't have it. They don't even know how they feel. They don't even know how to help themselves because they've not been taught how to identify how they feel. And that's why to bridge that gap, schools are beginning to bring in social emotional learning, helping students understand how they feel. You see teachers in the morning, when they come in the morning, good morning, how are you today, and all that. And then, like, in my class, we have what we call a feelings chat. When you come in the morning, you go to the chat according to your name. Just against your name, you tick whether you're happy, or say come see, come sir, or you're sad. If you're happy, we ask you, okay, why are you happy? What's making you happy? Because we need to be sure that you're not just assuming that this is what you're feeling. You actually understand what you're feeling and why you're feeling that way. Then if you're feeling a little bit here, a little bit there, we also ask. If you're feeling down, we ask. After break, who knows, something might have happened during break. So when you come back from break, you go to the chat again, you do the same thing. Shortly before school closes, you go to the chat again, you do the same thing. Because it helps us to know how well your day runs. So schools are beginning to bring this in to help these children that fall in this category where they don't have anyone to speak to, so they can at least build their emotional confidence. Many of them feel unseen, they feel unsupported, and like I said, that's why some of them act out. Maybe if I break the TV, maybe you will see me, you will see that somebody is actually sitting here. Maybe if I shout or scream at somebody, maybe if I kick a child, you actually know that I am here, I'm hurting. Maybe if I behave naughty, if I disobey the rules, you actually see that there's a child in your class. They feel unseen, they feel unheard, and they feel unsupported. And that's why schools encourage parental involvement. But when parental involvement becomes too much, what happens? Because there are like two extremes. When parental involvement becomes too much, that's when we begin to have dependency, over-dependency, and entitlement. You see children who lack resilience. I heard of a student where someone shared that she was taking a student and the student just suddenly stopped the class and said, I feel overwhelmed. And the parent said, oh, you feel overwhelmed? That's fine, you can stop. And that was it. I feel overwhelmed. So, yes, it's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to have a talk with the child. What makes you feel overwhelmed? How can we solve it? And after everything is done, the child, you have to make the child continue. As long as whatever it is that child is doing is not posing any danger to their, or threats to their life, to their well-being and all that. Feeling overwhelmed is part of life. Sometimes life can be overwhelming. Will you, because of that, jump into the lagoon? Of course, we see people who do that, who once life becomes overwhelming and their resilience level is at an all-time low, the next thing they believe that the way out is suicide. But then, there's a saying in my place. The Yorubas will say something like, you're having a headache, you don't chop off your head because you're having a headache. That's not the solution. If you're having a headache, if you need to sleep it out, sleep it out. If you need to see a doctor, see a doctor. Sometimes you just need to pour water on your head and everything will calm down. That's it. But if you now chop off your head because you're having a headache, does that solve the solution? No. So, we need to let these children understand. We need to help them build their resilience. When the going gets tough, the tough gets going. They don't give up. But they need all the support they can get. But when they have excessive support, now, we need to understand, in as much as we are advocating support, in as much as we are advocating parental involvement, balance is the key. Because when we go above, it's just like a doctor, you go to the doctor today and the doctor tells you, oh, you're having a headache, take a paracetamol, two pills in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the night. And then because you've been busy all day, you now come back in the night and then you use 6 at once. Like, after all, I was supposed to use 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the night, which are 6 pills in a day. And then you use 6 at once. What happens? That's overdose. And there's going to be a major problem. You're going to land back in the doctor's place, just that you won't be in the good state. So you won't say because the doctor said 2, 2, 2. After all, 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6. And then you use 6 at once. So balance is key. Balance is key here. We need to help them to build resilience. When there is over-involvement, when parental involvement becomes too much, children begin to expect adults to solve their problems. They know. Helicopter parents, they're always hovering around. So all I have to do is, mommy, daddy, and then the problem, poofs, disappears. They don't even think, they don't even want to think that, how can I do this? It's okay as a parent, when they call on to you, also question them. So what do you think you can do? How do you think you can solve this? If you do it this way, what do you think the consequence could be? And there's something I tell my students when, maybe when I'm introducing a new topic to them, a new concept to them, and I'm trying to juggle their brains. Okay, I tell them you're scientists. Because yes, there's something we call cross-curricular learning. Even though you're doing math, even though you're doing English, we could link it to another aspect of the curriculum. So you're a scientist. Let's make a scientific guess. Now, you've taught them to make a guess. And then some can just make silly guesses that you wonder, where is this thought coming from? So you have to train them to, like, yes, you want to make a guess, but it must be a smart guess. Now, you're not trying to be perfect, you're not trying to be correct. But then, if suddenly somebody stands in front of you and begins to dance, even if you can't hear anything, what would your guess be? What do you think? What would you guess? Anyone? If somebody suddenly stands, if I stand here now and I just suddenly begin to dance, what would your guess be? Happiness. Okay. You suddenly think, oh, I think she's happy. Okay. What else? What else? Do you want to? Insanity. The person could be insane. Okay. Happiness, insanity. Yes. What else could it be? Anyone? Anyone?
Good news.
It could be good news. And it could be any of this, and it could be none of this. Right? But all your guesses are smart. But if you think, if I'm dancing now and you suddenly think I'm dancing because I'm hungry. Is that a smart guess? So, and that is why we train them. Yes, to make guesses, but to make smart guesses. Because that is how it begins. It's when you're able to make a smart guess, that's when you become a problem solver. Because you are able to, yes, you've been able to identify a problem, you've been taught to identify problems, and then you're able to guess, okay, if we do it this way, do you think it would work? Because when you're making a smart guess, you're supporting with evidence. Oh, I think this person just got a good news, because a good news would make you happy, and happiness could be expressed through dancing. She's not frowning, she's not looking like she's sad or upset. So I think she's happy. I think maybe she got a good news or something. So that way, they're able to link 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 together to problem solve. And that's what we need to build in these children. We need to build them to become problem solvers, because the world needs problem solvers. The world going after Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg today, Aliko Dangote, it's not because they like their faces. They don't even care about them. They only care about the solutions they prefer. Because if they don't prefer any solution, who cares? Nobody cares about them. So the world only cares about problem solvers, and that's why we need to build these children to become problem solvers. And when we over-involve, we deny them that opportunity of building that very necessary skill. And in turn, we see children begin to suffer socially. You are too protective. Yes, probably because something negative happened in the time past, and you're trying not to what I went through, I don't want my child to go through this and that. And then you shield your child too much. You find out that you have children who are socially retarded. They're socially retarded. I remember growing up in my house, we're not allowed to visit friends. We're not allowed to bring friends home. So even when some of my friends passed through my streets, and maybe peradventure I am outside, because my mom had a shop downstairs in my house. So sometimes when we stay, if not for the shop, I would say generally we won't even see outside. Because we are what we term in Nigeria, get inside. Get inside the house. You're not allowed to play outside, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that. So thank God for the shop. So when we stay in the shop, my friends will just peep and say, oh, she's in the shop. From outside, while going through, they just say, hello, and that's it. They just go. It was after some time that they now began to, I think maybe they saw an experience, who knows, of the dangers of you're not allowing your children visit friends. You're not allowing friends visit them. You don't know the friends your children move with. I think they saw something related to that. So they began to loosen up a bit, that okay, you're still not allowed to go, but you're allowed to bring them home. And not bringing them home, it's not inside though. They will come to the shop where you are. All of you will sit down outside and you'll be gisting. But at least at that point they began to know my friends. Now why am I saying this? Growing up, because I never got to really mix up with my friends and all that. Up till now, I am still kind of, I won't say socially retarded anymore, because I'm beginning to, the kind of exposure I've had has begun to help me to bring myself out. So I am no more completely retarded anymore. But then, I see the way children of nowadays, they just get into a circle and they are connecting. And I admire it. I'm like, oops, I still have a long way to go. Social struggle. You see children who, apart from academic success, they don't have a social life. Personally, I have friends too, who, when it comes to academics, they are up there. They are soaring. But bring in any other thing apart from academics, zero. We don't want that kind of. We don't want that kind of person. We don't want. There's this slogan in my university. When you finish, you'll say this individual, this person has excelled in character and learning, and therefore is eligible to be conferred the honor of so. You have to excel in both character and learning, not just learning, and also not just character. There are two sides to a coin. So our children must be all round developed. We don't want high flyers who don't know how to say a simple greeting, good morning. And that's, sometimes the parent asked me and said, the children of nowadays, they don't even greet anymore. What is it that you teachers are doing nowadays in school? And I asked, with all due respect, a comedian said, when a Nigerian tells you with all due respect, what is coming afterwards is not respectful. I said, with all due respect, have you, on your own, taught them how to greet? So, it's not supposed to be done in school. Say no. Greeting is part of moral. Morals should first be, in fact, they should be taught at home and only enforced in school. When you see a child that is not taught morals at home and then morals are now being enforced in school, it feels like you're antagonizing the child, and the child will fight back naturally. And that's why we have students who are defiant in school. Because just like one of the speakers said, a child that has been naughty at home and you don't correct, but when you are now in an open space, you now want to correct the child. There was this comedy sometime ago about, mommy, you can lie, you. And we see that happen. You know, a colleague of mine was telling me about what happened some time ago with a parent. And the parent was talking to the teacher and was like, I don't take this from my child. I make sure and you know the children of nowadays, these Gen Alphas, there's nothing they cannot say. They don't know that because we have actually not built this discipline in them. You know, during our own days, when your parent caught you eye, in fact, all they have to do is just look at you and then continue doing what they're doing. They take you to a friend's house and they, Junior, will you eat? And you look at your mom, eat now. Eat it. Nobody will tell you not to eat. Eat it. When you get home, you go and explain where you left your home training or the last century that you ate last that made you so famished that you now ate that food they gave you outside. It's not going to be very easy. But nowadays, you caught a child eye. Mommy, did anything get into your eyes? Mommy, why are you winking? Or, Mommy, why are you stepping on me? They don't know all these things because they've not been taught to identify these signs. But suddenly, you now get outside. You want to give them those signals. There will be no network. There will be no network. So the parent was like, I don't do this. I don't take this. I deal with them. And the child said, Mommy, you don't do that though. Right in front of the teacher. And the teacher just did like, she didn't even hear anything. What's my business? It's a family problem. You go and settle it when you get home. You know? And even recently, I had the same issue with a child too. Dad was also always disrupting the class, and the parents came up with an idea that, I'm going to pull out the child. I'm going to take him to one of these very low schools so that the child will learn that because you're going to an affluent school, it's a privilege. You know, for the child to understand the privilege he's enjoying by being in the school he is at that point. And that was the agreement the parents brought up. So he said, oh, I'm going to put him in that school for 1 week. So when he goes and I'm going to give him the idea that he's not coming back to this school, so that maybe when he gets there and he sees the way things are going, he will understand that it has always been a privilege. So by the time I bring him back here, he would behave better. And I said, oh, that's a very fantastic idea. Let's see how it works. But in my mind, I just knew that this thing is a lie. And truly, by the time the child came back after 1 week, hey, hello, I've missed you. How are you? How was your experience? Where did you go? Where have you been? And you know, children, they will always tell you, oh, I went to so school. For how long? Only 1 day. For you that say you're taking the child for a whole week. Now, they took the child just for 1 day, on the very last day that the child was to resume the following week. So that when the child comes to school and they ask you where did you go, it won't be able to say, oh, I didn't go anywhere. So they took the child there only 1 day. The remaining 4 days, he was just at home, enjoying himself. And you expect that kind of child to act with discipline, when even you as a parent did not act with discipline. They struggle socially. And that's why you see children these days cannot boldly pick their friends. They cannot boldly say, if you don't like me, well, that's your problem. If you don't want to be my friend, or I don't want you to be my friend, or I want this person to be my friend. The moment somebody says, I'm not going to be your friend, you see them crouch in the corner and begin to cry. Why? Because they don't like me. Do you even like yourself? Do you know what you carry? Do you know who you are? When somebody does not want you in their circle, if you are a gem, well, and you know that you are a gem, you won't feel bad because you know that it's their loss. But these children have not been trained to be socially strong. And that's why they go through all this. Some even deteriorate to the extent that they have to see therapists simply because somebody refused to be their friends. I thought therapy should be reserved for adults or even extreme cases. What is a child looking for in a therapist's office? I stand to be corrected anyways. But I know that even as adults, the Bible kind of always directs us back to look at children, to learn from them, because their life is very free. And that's why there's this slogan in Nigeria, adulthood na scam. Because you discover that once you suddenly become an adult, you have a lot of things you're going through that you never went through when you were a child. But these so-called children do not even understand that this is the freedom they have, this is the gift they have right now. Because they've not been made to understand it. They've not been helped to understand it. Another thing is they don't develop responsibility, no sense of responsibility. A child eats and the nanny has to come and clear it up. No responsibility whatsoever. And because of that, they begin to believe that responsibility does not apply to them. Rules does not apply to them. So you create a rule and they willingly flout those rules. They easily flout rules because they've not been used to having rules. They are the ones that make the rules. They are the ones that decide. I once worked in a school where I was supposed to run an assessment, and a child told me, Miss, I'm not ready to take the assessment today. Whoop. So I was like, so when are you ready to take it? And the child was telling me something like, next week. So I went to, because I was new there, I went to ask my supervisor, this is what this child said. And my supervisor said, yes, yes, please. As giving me the assessment whenever it's ready. Oh, is this how we do here? Okay, that's interesting. And then I went back to class. I told the child, I said, this assessment is slotted for today. If you don't have any health reason or whatever that would stop you from taking this assessment today, sorry, if you don't take it today, you missed the mark. I will not reassess you because it won't be fair on others. And he didn't take the assessment, and I did not reassess him. I gave him 0 for that. Yes, I did that. But that helped the child understand something. Rules are rules. You don't do things because you feel like doing it or you don't feel like doing it. No, it's not about I don't feel like doing this. And that was one of the ways where I was able to gain that child. This is a child that would not learn and would not allow others to learn as long as he's in that class. And this child suddenly said, hey miss, I want to participate. Oh, don't worry, I'm not going to disturb anybody. And he did not disturb anybody. That's what I call tough love. It took me to have to do something that the child would not like to gain him. But if I had continued in what the school wanted, I wouldn't have gained him. I would have lost him. And he would have continued seeing that rules don't apply to me. I can have my way whenever I want and however I want. Psychologist Dr. Wendy mentioned something. He said children need autonomy the same way they need air. They need autonomy the same way they need air. Because without it, they can't breathe into adulthood. It's fine to embrace someone, but when you embrace too tightly, you stifle them, you suffocate them. They can't breathe. So when you don't give them the autonomy to fall and safely rise, when you don't create safe spaces for them to fail and learn from their failure, you're just building a ticking time bomb. Here's some of the problems that we face due to over-involvement. See, parents questioning teachers' authority. Why do you have to do this? Why does my child have to do this? Why do you have to give online-based homework when it's supposed to be paper-based homework? Why should it have to be paper-based when it is online-based? Why do you have to tell my child to use computer to do this? Why do you have to send in worksheets? Or why don't you send in worksheets? Why is my child having to write notes? Why is my child not having to write? You know, they keep questioning teachers' authority. Sometimes they will even come and tell you, I don't want my child to sit beside this person. I don't want my child to be in this class. I don't want my child to do this. And why are you doing? These are some of the problems that we go through. We see parents manipulating grades. They manipulate grades. I remember when I wrote my WAEC examination, it became so bad that there was a lot of malpractice because questions had been circulated, and you hear things like, my mom bought it, my dad bought it. I come from a family where no sorting. If you fail, you will gladly fail. You will repeat that class gladly. Nobody will sort anything. Nobody will push you. Nobody will do anything for you. The only thing they will do is they will give you all the support you need to pass on your own. Not if you need to go for extra classes, they will register you for extra classes and all that. But that by exam questions or pay teachers, pay systems to upgrade you and all that without actually meriting that upgrade, they will not. So it was so strange to me that parents, are you sure? As in, not you sorting behind your parents now and they're not aware, but parents actually paying the way of their children through. I was shocked. I was really shocked. I was really shocked. And that's why you see parents, maybe sometimes when the children are supposed to repeat a class or something, or fail a subject or something, you hear them coming to fight the school. Why is my child having to fail? Why is my child having to repeat? Why is my child having to do this? They reject, they demand promotion of their children despite weak or poor results. And that's why you see today schools don't even use positions anymore. All these first position, second position, they know the chaos it causes at home, so they took it out so everybody can breathe. Yet they stopped using position. Now you still see parents, that one that collected the award, does he have 10 heads? Forgetting that the person that got the award might have been just 0.01 ahead of your child. So it's just that 0.01 edge that gives the person the award, not because they are actually very good or much better than your child. See, parents keep pushing children, whether they can do it or they cannot. They keep pushing them. You have to become a doctor for somebody that when they see blood they vomit. When they see blood they pass out. And then you tell the child, you must become a doctor. Shielding children from consequences of actions. We see this a lot. Children, because the children have been having their way, they've always been having their way at home, they think that would also happen when they get out into the society or into the community, and then you see them do some wrong things. We see cases of children even committing crimes and the parents quickly taking them out of the country so they don't have to face the music or bear the consequence of their actions. And we see these kind of children, when they go out there, they begin to behave anyhow. They become worse in that vice that they've started. There's a little story. There's a story of the magic well. And the story goes thus. A little boy, a young boy, one day mistakenly killed a man. It was a mistake. Not so young, don't let me say young boy. A teenage boy anyways, mistakenly killed a man. It was a mistake. A pure mistake. Probably he was playing and something hit the man, and who knows the health condition of the person, and the person died. You know, it was an innocent mistake. Of course, the law would not let it go. But the law would have understood that one, he was young and the mistake could have been actually an innocent mistake. Even if the law would have its course, they could have tempered justice with mercy. But he quickly took the body out of fear, kept the body in a well, and said, when it's dark, I will go and dispose the body, because I don't want anybody to notice this mistake. By the time it was dark, he got to the well and the body was missing. The body had disappeared. He checked and checked. There was nobody. So he was wondering, is this well a magic well? So, okay. Another time again. A mistake, but not an entire mistake anyways, because this time around, you know, he had not gotten the full confidence yet, but just an outer confidence. So when it happened, he said, let me go and keep this body in the well. He went to keep the body in the well again. I'll dispose the body at night when everyone is asleep. When he got there at night, the body had disappeared again. This well must be a magic well. So bodies disappear. That's interesting. And then, because of that, he developed full-fledged confidence, knowing fully well that he had his magic well at his beck and call. So he became a full-fledged killer. And at every point, when he kills someone, he throws the body in the magic well. He will go back at night, the magic well has done its job. The body is nowhere to be found. Fast forward to many years later, and his mom was aged. He had been taking care of the womb of the mom, and suddenly he was like, oh, he felt so burdened. I can't continue dealing with this. I can't do this anymore. Let me just kill this woman and throw her in the magic well. So he killed her, threw her in the magic well, and he had stopped checking the well anyways, because now he has tested the efficacy of the well. He knows that yes, this well, the magic is very strong. It does its work without fail. So he stopped checking. So by the time he killed the mom, he didn't go back to check. Only for a few days later, the police showed up at his doorstep to arrest him for the murder of his mom. And he was wondering, what happened? Did the magic well not do his work? How did they find the body? How did they trace it to him? And all that evidences began to fly left and right. It was during the course of the investigation he discovered that the well was actually not a magic well, but his mom had been the one that had been disposing of the body before he gets there. She had been covering up for him over the years. If only she had allowed the law to take its course at the very first one, he would not have grown to be a full-fledged killer. So sometimes we shield our children from little mistakes because we are trying to paint a perfect picture to the world, not knowing that we are building a menace that will come back to haunt us. Shielding children from consequences of actions. You see some parents go as far as requesting daily reports from teachers. And so what happened today? And so what did he do today? Not out of concern or out of interest, but because they are monitoring, out of control. Some even request for access to CCTV. I want to see what happens. A child comes with his things to school, cannot take care of it, and then you're asking the teacher, you want to know how it is that a 10-year-old cannot take care of his own things, and then the teacher should go and look for it. But like I said in my previous speech, it's not that parents are the problem. They are not the problem. And teachers do not see them as the problem. Neither do teachers hate them. Inasmuch as teachers do not like what exactly is going on. But they still do not see parents as the problem because we understand some of the reasons why they do this. And I'm going to outline some of the reasons. Number one is that some parents over-involve out of fear of failure. They are scared that if they don't do this, people will see them as a bad parent. They will see them as they're not doing what they need to do. So they are scared. The fear of failure. There is this saying, and there's a proverb that says the good child belongs to the father and the bad child belongs to the mother. So you see, out of this fear that, so that they will not say that I am the one encouraging you, then they over-involve. You see parents putting excess pressure even on the children themselves because they are scared of the world tagging them as a failed parent. They have a fear of the world. Fear of uncertainty. I don't know what can happen. If I don't do this, I don't know what they will say. I don't know what you will do. I don't know how I will handle it. I don't know. Fear. Ego. Ego is another reason why some parents over-involve. They just want to prove something. That, my child, my own type of parenting is top-notch, is spotless. They want to prove that they are better than other parents. They want to prove that they are perfect. Some of them even want to live through the child. I tried to become a doctor, but I was denied. So my child must be a doctor. Or because my father was a doctor, my mother was a doctor, I am also a doctor, my children too must be doctors. We must be a family of doctors. So that when they say doctors, they say, they are a family of doctors. Yes. Or we are a family of lawyers, we are a family of pilots. Yes. Ego. And then they begin to put pressure. There's a story of a young man in Nigeria, of a man in Nigeria. We all know him. Because he comes from a family of doctors and his parents put pressure on him that, you have to also be a doctor, this and that. He said, okay, no problem. He went ahead, became a doctor, completed his studies, brought back his certificate, and presented it to his father. Here, Daddy, I've become a doctor for you. And then he told the father, this is not what I want to become. I only did this for you. Now it's time for me to chase what exactly I want to become. And he went ahead to study music because that's what he wanted to do. And that's what we know him for today. Ego. Next one is competition. Competition. Social media has even made that worse. People want to compare themselves to the other person. They want to prove a point to someone who is not even watching, who does not even care about you. They want to prove a point. My child got the best in math, best in English, best in science, best in geography, best in physics, best in the whole world, best in this, best in that. They want to prove to people. It's good if the child actually does that, out of the fact that yes, they are well supported, not out of you pressure cooking them. It's good. But when you have to turn everything around them into a pressure cooker, and you have to smoke, grill, and fry them just to get that result from them, then what are we doing? Some they keep pushing, they keep over-involving, just so they can brag to the world, just so they can brag to their friends. And they begin to compare. If the child, you see, there are some children that are super smart, but because they find themselves in a class, I know of a child that I taught last year, and coincidentally I'm also teaching this year. This child, when I taught her last year, she was the best in the class. So at the end of the day, she got awards for best in this, best in that, best in this, best in that. But this year, her legs are shaking. Not because she has become dull. No, she's still super smart. But she has tough competition. Very tough competition. Very tough competition. And you see, competition like you'll be seeing 97.8. You know, when you're computing results, you will need to change the Excel sheet to 2 decimal places. In fact, sometimes 3 decimal places for you to know who came first, who came second. That's the kind of competition. And if this child does not get an award this year, if the parents are the type that over-involve, they will begin to put pressure on her. Is it that she's not trying her best? Yes, she is. But we need to understand that in as much as this child is good, other children too are good, they are trying their best, you don't have to put pressure on them. Support. Don't chase, don't push them to the wall. Support them. Some parents over-involve because they don't trust teachers. And And I remember saying this in my previous speech. I said, if you don't trust me to be your child's teacher, your child has no business being in my class. If you don't trust that I am a professional and I know my job and I can carry it out to the later without you micromanaging me, then your child has no business being in my class. Because you will not tell a doctor how to treat you. You won't. You won't tell a lawyer how to fight for your case. Because you trust that they are you will even be begging them, please, help me. So you need to trust the teachers that your children are in their classes. Trust the teachers. Because the moment you don't trust them, you begin to micromanage. And some parents, the reason why they over-involve is not because they want to over-involve. Some don't just know how to draw the line between over-involvement and the balanced involvement. They just don't know the difference. They mistake involvement for control. They see it that when I'm controlling, oh, do this, do it that way. Why are we doing it this way? Why not do it this way? They see it as that's their own involvement in the child's studies, or that's the support they are giving to the child. So they just do not know. To be fair to them. For some, social pressure, social media. They want to paint the picture of a perfect child. They want to paint the picture of a perfect family. They want to paint the picture of a perfect parents. They just want to be painting pictures to people that don't even care. People that after they click on like today, they've gone to face their own lives. But they just want to keep painting these pictures. They want to keep painting these pictures to them. Now, let's look at what this does. Because I've already talked about what it does to the child. What does it do to the society when parents over-involve? What does it do to our society? In our society, we begin to have adults who can't solve problems. And that's why you hear employers who say graduates today are unemployable. Or because, not just because of the declining educational system in our country, so, but then most of these children are being pampered all their lives. They've been carried all their lives. So when it's time for them to stand and any little thing, and any little thing, they break down. No resilience, no problem solving skills, because they're not the ones solving their own problems. I remember when I was serving and I was at the NYSC camp. Till I left the camp, I kept reminding, sometimes I'll just stand in the middle of the camp and I'll just tell myself, you are in the midst of graduates. You are in the midst of graduates. You are in the midst of graduates. Because some people will do some things. You ask yourself, did this person go to school? You now remind yourself, sorry, she's a graduate. He's a graduate. I reminded myself till I left camp. I was like, oh my God, now I see why. Sometimes employers say the graduates today are unemployable. No social skills, no social emotional skills, psychological skills, zero. Problem solving, zero. Analytic skills, zero. They cannot, okay, yes, the system is not, a speaker spoke about something this morning, said, even if the system is not working, instead of pointing fingers Instead of nitpicking what is not working, ask yourself, what can you do? Be a problem solver. In the midst of problems, that's where you see opportunities. But you hear things like, how much are you going to pay me? What's instant gratification because they are used to it. Now, parents, before a child cries 1 or 2 times, iPad, tablet, computer games, chocolate. Before they ask 1 or 2 things, take. Instant gratification. They are used to that already. And because of that, we have adults who can't solve problems. We have employers complaining every time, entitled generation. And there's funny skits on social media about Gen Z employees and all that, and then you see maybe what a normal employee would do, what a Gen Z employee would do, this and that. And it's always very funny. But then we see that sometimes in workplaces, in workspaces. And employers are always like, this generation are too entitled, this generation are too this generation are too that. In that same generation, we have those that genuinely developed properly. We have parents who did not over-involve or under-involve. But we have those ones that were cushioned through life. And because of that, there's a lot of problem when they enter into the workforce. Schools are beginning to lose authority. Most schools, there are still schools that still stand their ground anyways, and I give my kudos to them. Please keep it up. But most schools are beginning to lose authority. Parents come in today, why are you doing A? Why not do B? They move to B. Same set of parents coming tomorrow, why are you doing B? Why not A? They move to A. And then they come again, why is it A? Why is it not C? Then they move to C. And then they are being pushed left, right, up, down. They don't have their own standard. Like I said, the school business is not a business that customer culture applies. A school is not a restaurant. And the teachers are not waiters. Neither are the children products. So there's nothing like the customer is always right. But that's what they are doing nowadays. Especially when a parent has, let's say, like 5 children and they calculate, I have 5 children, go. Problem. But they forget that even for a parent that over-involves, they know the truth. Sometimes they just need somebody to tell them. They know the truth. When they get to a school, I gave an illustration of a parent that said, I have only brought my child here to be taught math and English, not morals. And thank God for my boss. She said, I have not started this business solely to make money, but also to touch lives. If you don't want me to touch the life of your child, you're free to go. Did the parents go? No. Why didn't he go? He will see schools that will teach the child only math and English, that will not teach morals. Yes. But why didn't you go to those schools? They know what they want. They just want to see. They want to test the waters. Let's see if these people will follow. And the moment you follow, they begin to push you left and right. Left and right. He stayed. He stayed. And the child learns the morals. He could have simply left. Had another parents that the grandma was, in this case it was not the parents, it was the grandma. The grandma was a thorn in her flesh. She will come and turn the whole school upside down, create chaos and all that and all that. And then one day my boss had enough and said, it's high time you left. And really she took her child and left. After one term, she came back. They know the truth. They know the truth. And when she came back, the child that Yorubas will call that kind of child Wakilumo. Once you enter a place, everybody knows you are here because you begin to disrupt, you begin to disturb, you begin to do everything. That child that used to be like that became cool-headed obedient, and compliant to rules. The same thing with the parents that will come and start throwing tantrums up and down. In fact, I was passing by the child one day. She had passed by me. I looked back. Is this also the person? She's back. I had to ask the teacher, when did she come back? Oh, it's been a while. It's been a while. And nobody knows in this school. Miracle. That's interesting. So it's been a while that she's been in this. This is someone that no day would go past and you will not know that she's in school that day. Any day she's not in school, you will know because the whole school will be silent. And this person has been in school for some time and nobody knows. That's interesting. So they know. They know. Schools are beginning to lose authority. They're beginning to bend to customer culture. The customer is always right. And because of that, they are failing in that which they need to do. We have children that lack accountability. We have people who you can't talk to. You can't talk to them. And that's why we see a lot of things going on in our society today. Someone will say, oh, even for those that even have mentors, can your mentor actually tell you do this and you will do it? I was saying something this morning before I came in here. So the Bible says something, it says, you call me Father, where is my honor? You hear things like, even this person comes all the way from this to this. He can only advise me, he cannot tell me what to do. And that person, on the day of the birthday, you will put on your social media, happy birthday to a great man, my father. But that your father will only advise you, cannot tell you what to do. I don't care what anybody thinks about me and you begin to mess up. People are beginning to lack accountability. Because they didn't grow up following rules. So some even believe that rules are meant to be broken. So what do you expect? Now what does healthy involvement look like? Because like I said, to some parents, to be fed on them, they actually do not know what it looks like. And that's why they are over-involving or under-involving. They don't know what an healthy involvement looks like. Healthy involvement is support, not control. It's support. I tell the parents of the children in my class, if I give homework and the child does not know it, if you notice that after prompting the child still cannot know it, cannot understand it or cannot do it, please don't teach. Send it back to me. I will gladly teach the child again. That means the lesson has not been learned. I will gladly teach again. Don't teach homework. Don't teach. Because if a child cannot do what I have taught today, is it in 3 months when the child will write assessment that the child will be able to do it? Say, please don't teach. Send the child back to me. I don't mind. I will do it again. Support, not control. A child brings homework home and the next thing you are calling the teacher. Why do you have to give my child 5 questions? Even if you have issues with it, tell the child to still do it. Let the child know that once homework comes home, it has to be done. Even if it is too much, then you can now call the teacher to ask. I want to believe teachers that are clamoring for parental involvement, they will be glad to explain why, the rationale behind it. But not 5 questions, that's too much. Please pack it. You're going to school tomorrow. I'm going to see your teacher. And then you go to school to raise chaos. No. Support, not control. If there's anything you don't understand, the first point of call is the teacher, not even the school authority. Call the teacher. Ask. There's a difference between asking and questioning. Some parents question, and the teacher begins to feel like they are now elaborate, that is being watched under a microscope. What's going on here? and they're now thinking of what to do to defend themselves and all that. No. Ask. When you genuinely ask, they will be willing to explain to you everything that you need to know, because they understand it's a partnership. So if there's something we need to do together and you don't understand, I'll gladly explain to you. Trust the teachers. You've taken your child to a school, and you choosing to take your child to that school is because you trust that the teachers are capable of delivering what you want the child to receive. Because if you believe that they don't have the capability to do that, you wouldn't have taken your child to that school. So allow them to do their job. Trust that they are professionals who know their onions. Trust that they know what they are doing. Trust that they are being trained to help your child get to where your child needs to get to. Allow natural consequences. I can't overemphasize this. Allow natural consequences. I remember some time ago, my youngest son forgot his homework in school. The school was not too far from my house, but it was a stretch anyways. It wasn't something that you just pop in. It's like a 15-minute trek if you want to trek. So most times he has to take a transport there. And then he got home, his homework was not in his bag. I said, "Mommy, I left my homework in school. Can my brother please follow me to go?" I said, "To go and do what?" "To go and pick my homework from school." Naturally, because he's the youngest, I couldn't have allowed him to go on his own. You know how the society is. So I told him, I said, "Sorry to disappoint you. He's not going to follow you. Number one, you're not going to do the homework because there's no other way you could have done the homework. You don't even know the questions, and I would have said, okay, do it elsewhere. When you get to school, and transfer it. You won't be able to do the homework. Number two, I'm not going to call your teacher to explain anything to her. Number three, you will go to school tomorrow morning. First thing tomorrow morning, you're going to do the homework and submit. And you're going to face the consequence for not doing it at home." After that day, he never forgot his homework again. Never. If I had shielded him, I would have had to deal with cases like that over and over and over again. The same way I'm having to deal with it in the students I teach. Say a child will come to school, you came with a laptop in the morning and you left it in school. How now? How? You left lunch bag in school. And then to make matters worse, sometimes some schools make teachers take those things to their houses. What were you looking at that the child forgot this in school? For a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, an 8-year-old, and we're not beginning to build these responsibilities in them. It's not supposed to be so. Allow natural consequences. I talked about how some parents, when their children make some mistakes or do some bad things, they quickly take them out. Some even fly them out of the country so they don't have to face the consequence. Which was the same thing that happened in the Magic Well story. Because she did not want to allow natural consequences. The boy had to face a greater consequence in future. Allow natural consequences. They learn from it. Just like a child that falls and bruises his knees, knows next time that if I still want to run, I have to run carefully, knowing fully well that I could fall, I could bruise my knees. So if I don't want to bruise my knees, I have to work on running properly, not to fall. Allow natural consequences. Build resilience. Help them build resilience. Give them opportunity to problem solve. There is a situation at home. Ask for their input. "Oh, we want to do this. What do you think?" Sometimes they will give you some ideas that you never thought about. My second son has something. You're talking about something, or you're brainstorming on an idea, and the only thing he sees about everything you are saying is negative. And I'll be like, why are you such a negative human being like this? Don't you even have anything good to say? Can't you even? I said, no, but, I did not understand at first until I took a course in critical thinking. And I learned about the 6 thinking hats. And the black hats, when you're putting on the black hats in critical thinking process, you are looking for every loophole that could come out of that your perfect plan. Now this time you're not thinking of the good things that will come out. You're looking for negative things that can come out. Negative things that could happen, that could disrupt your plan. You're about to say, the one we are not thinking about should not destroy the one we are thinking about. So that's where the black hat comes in. The black hat thinking comes in. You think about every negative thing that could disrupt what you're planning. So when I learned about it, I was like, oh, this is a skill he has. Because I remember when I was taking that course, the only thing I always failed in was that black hat. Because me, I'm an optimist. Even when things are going bad, I always see the brighter side of it. That is me. Maybe my name should have been bright side. I always see the brighter side of things. I don't ever see the negative. So when I was going through that course, and they say, okay, everybody put on your black hats, think about the loopholes that could come out. Sorry, nothing. My head is empty. No thought processes. Even when I try to force my brain to think, my brain cannot come up with anything negative. So I was there, and then a thought drops in my heart. This is something this boy does effortlessly. So instead of me putting him down the way I had always been putting him down, you don't even say anything good. So what I now did was, first, I made him understand. I taught them about the 6 thinking hats. Then told him about the black hats. Helped him to understand that this thing you have is actually a strength. And then I began to harness the strengths. So when we are thinking, or when we are brainstorming on anything at home, say, Mr. Black Hats, let's go. What do you think? And I'm like, so this time around, he sees that it's strength. He looks at it. Mommy, if we do it this way, don't you think this will happen? Don't you think it will go like this? It's okay. That's a good one. Because I did not see it. I couldn't have seen it in 100 years. I couldn't. But he sees it naturally. I said, oh, don't you think? I said, okay. Oh, so what can we do? I have another son that is a white hat. That one, he can see all the good things. I said, okay, so now that we've seen what the black hat has seen, Mr. White Hat, what do you think? How do you think we can navigate it? It's okay, and why don't we do it this way? Why don't we say, okay. Now I'm able to harness that. Now he does not see it as I am the problem. He now sees that I have a strength here that I can use positively. We need to help them, encourage independence. Encourage independence. Your child talks too much. Say, hey, come on, you talk too much. No. Don't bring them down. Encourage independence instead. Partner with the school. Partner with the school. Meet the teachers. If there's anything you don't understand, meet the teachers. Let them talk you through it. I know I've had situations whereby some parents come to me. My child brought this homework home. I do not understand what to do. And I'll say, okay, but I really want to help her in this. So what do I do? I say, okay, this is the method we are using in school at presently. So if you want to help, you have to go through this method. So sometimes I will have to teach even the parents, explain to them that, oh, this is it. For them to understand that, oh, okay. And because of that, they have been empowered to help the children more. Some will come, oh, you said I should not teach, but how do I guide? And say, okay, instead of doing this, why don't you do it this way? That way, we're able to get the results that we want from the child. Meet the teacher. Liaise with them. Read school emails. WhatsApp messages, read. You know, sometimes I'm guilty of this too, because I missed my work emails, then my personal life emails. I once mentioned that I run a lot of training. So by the time this training sends me emails, that one sends me emails, this one does that. And sometimes I'll just read the heading, first paragraph, second paragraph, and I'm done. And everything a very important information is down. And I won't see it. Read school emails, because most these emails are vital information that the school wants you to know, to be aware about, on how best to support your child. Please, read school emails. Attend events. I know you're busy. I know you have a busy schedule, but please, attend events. These events sometimes give you an insight into their world. It helps you see how they are. Some children have dual personalities. Don't worry, it's not a disorder. They are very gentle at home, but in school, at home they are introverted. In school, they are extroverted. Some, the opposite is the case. They are extroverted at home and they are introverted in school. When you attend events, you are able to see, you catch a glimpse, if not even a lot of sight, into their world in school. You see how they behave in school, who they interact with, how they do things. Attend events. Set realistic expectations. You know your child is not so good in math, but you want your child to get the award for best in math. It's a good thing to encourage the child, yes, but when you begin to pressure the child to now do that, then that expectation is no more realistic. It's no more realistic. You have to understand that not every child will be first. Not every child will be first. Some children, their own strength is not even academics. Some, their strength is sports. Some, their strength is music. Just like the Dean mentioned, when he was in school, he just wanted to get the barest minimum and just get out of there, because he wasn't concerned about what he was studying. Does that make him any less of himself? No. He knows what he wanted to do. I had a friend when I was in school, a young, he was in my department. He sees me like a big sister. I was in third year, he was in first year. So I was with this guy all through. We met when he was in first year. So because we're in the same department, he kind of looked up to me. So I was with him first year, second year. By the time he got to third year, we began to have problems in school. It was like, this is, see, first year maths. I was able to cope. Second year, I was manager. See, that third year, nothing is entering. And I was trying to encourage him and all that. But then he said something. He said, see, this is not even where my interest lies. I actually want to speak. I want to do mass communication. I want to anchor programs. That's actually what I want to do. And my hands just dropped. I was even trying to okay, anyhow, just finish this one. Just collect it and go, And he said, see, there's no way I can finish it. Because nothing is even entering. Even to score the D or the E, I cannot. And when I saw that, he had already made his resolve. And apart from that, he already had a plan in motion on how to navigate into his mass communication. He already started his programs and everything. I just had to wish him well. Because that is where he will shine. That is where he will shine. So now having to force him that you have to complete this math. So please, set realistic expectations for them. Remember that when we respect boundaries around these children, let's respect their boundaries. We help them to become better. A call to teachers. Please, don't shrink. Don't give up. Like I always say to my colleagues, see, this our job is what I call not the way Musa no go see for gates. We see a lot, we go through a lot, I understand. But don't forget that you're not just teaching a child, you're molding a generation. So you cannot afford to be discouraged. You cannot afford to let go. You cannot afford to be disappointed. You cannot afford to be discouraged. We see a lot of teachers have had to leave the classroom space because they just cannot deal. They just cannot deal. They cannot deal. They can't deal with the children. They can't deal with the parents. They can't even deal with the school. They just can't deal. But I'm pleading, don't shrink. Because remember, you are still the signboard. You are the one that shows them what to see. So please, don't shrink. To schools, you've already used a fine-tooth comb to handpick these teachers. You know they are the highest level of professionals that you can get. Allow them do their job. And also shield them. Protect them. Don't leave them to parents. Don't play them around parents because you're trying to please your customers. Remember, the school is not a restaurant. It's not. So the culture of customer is always right does not apply. Have a standard and stand by it. Have a standard and stand by it. To our government, because everybody will collect, develop guidelines. In the UK is already doing that. They're already doing that. They have things like the parent liaison officer that puts parents in check. That puts parents in check when they are trying to over-involve, especially when they are now trying to pour it on the teacher. So the UK is doing that already. So government, please. And remember, I'm not talking to just Nigerian governments, because this is not only a Nigerian issue. It's something that goes on around the globe, everywhere. Develop guidelines that will help teachers, help schools to be able to stand for what they know and be able to do their jobs in safe environments. Fund counseling programs. Teachers who need counseling. They need counseling, even if it is just to rant. I mentioned earlier that some time ago I had to see a therapist. Not because I don't know what the therapist wants to say. In fact, at some point she said, everything I want to tell you to do, you're already doing it. You already know it and you're already doing it. And I said, I know. I just needed somebody to rant to. I just wanted someone that I would talk to, that would not understand from family relationship or understand based on the fact that, okay, I know you. No, I want a neutral person who does not know me and who is not going to put the bias of relationship to just listen. So that whatever you're telling me, you're not telling me because you want to make me happy. If I'm doing anything wrong, you can tell me I'm doing something wrong. That's what I just needed, and that's why I'm here. Teachers need it. They need it. So please, fund counseling programs. Set up trainings to train teachers in managing difficult parents. Some private establishments are doing that already. They put their teachers through different trainings. Private schools are doing that already. Government schools do that for your teachers, and also subsidize it even for private schools, because private schools are spending a lot of money to do this. So subsidize it for them. Set up trainings for teachers that will help them to manage difficult parents. And to the society, please stop glorifying perfection. Celebrate growth. There's some children, maybe a child that is scoring 2/10. suddenly starts to score 3/10, and you're like, those that score 10/10, do they have 10 heads? No. That movement from 2 to 3, celebrate it. Because it sends a message to the child that if I can do this, then I can do better. And before you know it, they would actually do better. Celebrate growth. Celebrate growth. Stop glorifying perfection. And that's why we see in our society today, people don't care how you got money. They don't care how you made it. And you start hearing things like fake it to make it. They don't care. They just want to know, oh, you've made it. How you made it, you don't care. And that's why you see, there's this joke many years ago that a little child was asked, what do you want to become? And he said, Walai mo fe shashe. That, I want to be a Yahoo boy. Because he sees the people doing it, being encouraged by society. I hear cases of mothers, fathers, enrolling their children to learn how to be a Yahoo boy. Yes. And I'm shocked to my bones. I'm like, where are we going? Society, stop glorifying perfection. Celebrate growth. We even see, okay, even look at what we are doing now. See our audience. If this were to be a cooking show, that people will come and eat free food, or they will collect free money, or it is one dance that they will come and dance, or even we see programs that glorify immorality, and you see everybody packed online raising money. Well, oh, this happened, we just want to support you with 10 million naira. And then at the end of the show, the winner walks home with 100 million naira. But then we come to educational institutions. The overall best graduating student is this. And then you look at the award, 100K. What are we saying? And we think, you see, the funny part is that the generation that is coming up, without teaching them 1 + 1 is 2, they know how to connect the dots. They are very smart. They were born in the era of technology, so they are super smart. And they look at it. This one, 100 million. This one, 100K. Without you telling me, I know where I want to be. I know where I want to go. You've just told me where to go without having to open your mouth. So please, society, stop glorifying perfection. Stop glorifying perfection. Celebrate growth, not performance. Celebrate growth. Our children need us. We need to know. They need us. We need to help them build this healthy independence. We need to understand that when we give them too little participation, it's just like a plant. When you give too little water, what happens to the plant? It dries up. So too little participation dries them up because they are just like a plant. But when you give too much, a plant that you give too much water to also does not thrive. When you give too much participation, you suffocate them. You suffocate them. We need to raise these children in a way that they grow into healthy individuals that do not have to rise to capacity that they have to rise to because they were pushed or they were pulled into it. No. Give them all they need and let them build themselves. Show them how to fish. Don't hand the fish to them. Because our goal is not to raise perfect children. That's not our goal. That's not why we are here. That's not why they have been given unto us. You know, there's this saying that our children are not our children. Even though we say they are our children, but they've been actually given to us to nurture, to raise. And I always say something to my children. I say, see, on the last day, I'm not going to just give account of how I lived my life. I'm going to give account of how I parented you. I tell my students, I will give account of how I was your teacher. Did I do the right thing by you or not? I tell my siblings, I will give account of how I am a sister to you. Have I been a good sister or a bad sister? I will give account. There are so many things I will give account to. So even for those that don't believe that there is a last day, I know you believe in posterity. One day, posterity will ask. So remember, the goal is not to build perfect children, but instead, the goal is to build capable adults. Thank you so much for listening. And I want to believe that we all now understand the difference between too little involvement and over-involvement. And going forward, we will be intentional in balancing our involvement. Kudos to one country that is doing a very good job in that, Finland. They're doing an amazing job in balanced involvement. And I implore other countries to follow suit. On this note, I will be passing the mic on to the next speaker.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I trust we are in good health. It's been an amazing session with her, actually. You know, you could tell that she is a born teacher, somebody who knows her audience. And honestly speaking, I found it really interesting.